Hey guys, Craig back here again. We're going to continue on a little bit with our talk about first aid kits. In our last video, we taught you guys about some of the things that you want to include in your kit. Today I want to show you a little bit of how to use some of those things. Some stuff is pretty self-explanatory. Most of you guys can figure out how to put a band-aid on, so I'm not going to really take any time with that kind of stuff, but there's a few things in here I do want to talk about. I'm going to actually have Josh in a little while come in, and it'll kind of help me. I'll do some demonstrations. One of the first things I want to talk about is just this. It's just one of these little silver space blankets. Kind of a cool thing. I've used them before. I've been camping before and had somebody become severely hypothermic, and that's one of the main uses for this thing, is to be able to help retain body heat. If you're with somebody and their body temperature starts dropping, that's going to be a medical emergency, so it can be used for that. These things are a little bit, it's amazing the size of these things once you go to open them up, but it's nice for a few things. It's going to be a little bit loud. You can use this for, again, covering yourself up if you're cold. You can use this for reflecting heat. So if you create a fire and you have you're sleeping out in the open next to it, you can put this up to help reflect some of the heat on top of you. If you're in an area then you're having a hard time finding water and it's going to rain, you can take this, poke a hole in it, and use this as almost a giant funnel to have some kind of water collection in the bottom there. So if you can get creative and probably come up with even more ideas for signaling. If you guys can see this in the light here, it's probably pretty bright. So I'm going to set this off to the side, but I just kind of wanted to show you what that thing looks like. Again, it opens up very large here. So I'll set that off to the side. I talked to you in the last video a little bit about gauze and that in some of the different sizes. So obviously you want to have your hands clean, put on a pair of gloves, but in a really quick emergency situation, and again we're talking with somebody with a bad trauma, you want to be able to work this stuff pretty quickly. So this is an example of just a small little gauze. If you look at the package here, it's just a little bit of a 2x2. So obviously, depending on the size cut, you might just need something small. And when you're looking at the cut, you can kind of tell what kind of damage the person did pretty quickly by looking at these things. So an abrasion or something like that, most of you had that, like a road rash type thing, is just some oozing. That's just your capillaries bleeding. It's pretty easy to stop that bleeding, but one of the things we're worried about is infection. So that's something you want to clean really, really good. If you have some clean water even, just flush that out. Maybe put a little bit of the antibiotic ointment on there and then bandage it. You don't have to bandage it super tight because it really doesn't take a lot of direct pressure. You're just trying to keep it from getting, getting bacteria and stuff in it where you're going to get like an infection. If you have bleeding and it's kind of a darker red and it's a continuous, like steady, slow, maybe flow of blood, that's going to be somebody that maybe cut a vein open. So a medical emergency, yeah, but don't get freaked out by the amount of blood. Some people see a small puddle of blood and they get overwhelmed right away. We have plenty of it, plenty in us, so as long as you act quickly, you're going to be able to help them out. So again, another different size gauze. One of the most common ones is this. It's a 4x4 gauze. So you can go ahead and open this up. Now, if you have something like this here and you have somebody that has a bleed, if you can very quickly grab your first aid kit and get that on top of that bleed, hold direct pressure with your own hand, hold it on there nice and firm. I'm sure I hit the mic here. Hold it on nice and firm, elevate above the level of the heart, and just keep it on there. One thing that people make the mistake of is they hold it on for a little bit and then they go like this. They peel it off and they're looking to see if the bleeding stopped. You're just going to take off that blood clot that's starting to form, so leave it on there. If you're putting it on there and it keeps bleeding through there, you're just going to take another one, put another one on top, and keep holding it on there. You don't want to take that off. All right? These kind of cuts, we're not going to worry about the antibiotic ointment and stuff like that on there. These things are bleeding. They're washing that bacteria out of there in most cases. So you're going to hold it on there. Now what you can do is once you get it on there, you're going to take something like this roller cling to be able to actually take your place of holding that direct pressure on there. So I think what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to have Josh kind of come in and we'll demonstrate a little bit for you guys on just some of the basic techniques on how to do this. All right? So we're going to take Josh here. Apparently Josh didn't watch his own life safety video and Josh cut himself. All right, so he cuts himself. One of the first things we can do is take this. We're going to go ahead, just put direct pressure on there. Again, I don't want to get out of the camera frame here, but we would elevate this up above the level of the heart. All right, now I can even have him hold it on there, hold direct pressure, while I go ahead and get my cling. Once I know that it seems like it's controlled a little bit and I don't have to keep adding more gauze, I'll open up one of these. This is just a small, if you look right here, this is just a little 2-inch little 2-inch cling. You can get these in 3-inch or 4-inch in different sizes. So a lot of times when you're camping though, you're really limited on space, so you're probably gonna have something small like this. What you're gonna do is you're gonna take this and you're gonna start rolling it over that. Now, the best way to put it on, if you look at it, it's rolled, is you're actually gonna roll it and let it kind of roll around something. Keep pulling it snug and roll it around, as opposed to, if you guys can see what I'm talking about here, as opposed to kind of going the opposite way. It's easier just to have it unroll itself. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go ahead and take place of that direct pressure here, and I'm just going to roll this thing across. All right, keep pulling some direct pressure on here. So as I'm unrolling it, I'm pulling it snug, all right, to make sure that it's holding that direct pressure on there. Okay. One of the things you want to watch out for is actually going too tight. Okay. If he's got just a cut and a vein here where he's bleeding, and I go too tight, I can actually cut off his circulation down below. So one of the things I want to do for that is, especially like on an arm, I can check right in here for his radial pulse. Just take 2 fingers and push there. Another really easy way to check for circulation is if I look at his fingers, I push down on his fingernail, it's going to turn white. So if you do that on yourself, you'll notice the same thing. You push it down, now I let go. Within a few seconds, the color should pop right back again in that nail bed. If it doesn't, if I push down and it turns white and I let go, and it's really slow to get its color back, that's telling me that he's having problems with circulation down here. And it could be that I put the gauze on too snug here, so I don't want that to happen to him. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and take this off for a moment. Again, when you get to the end of this, you can just tie it off, or if you want, you can take a little piece of tape and put it on there. All right, this bandage is the other one I talked to you guys about. I know this one is a lot of people call this an Israeli bandage. Once you open it up, remember it comes in this package that you might have seen in the last video where it's like shrink wrapped in there. So the way that this works is you're going to take this thing and you're going to put it over the cut the person has. You're going to hold it on there very firm and you're going to wrap around. What's cool about this is this little device here. This is what makes this thing work so well. So you're going to take this thing here. We get that pad over where the cut is. This is going to go into this little groove. You guys will be able to see this in a minute, I think, when I'll kind of turn it. So if you guys look, I fed that through this little piece here. Now what happens is I pull this snug and I pull back and it yanks it tight. It creates that direct pressure. So by going through and then pulling back, it's tightening that down. It makes it a lot easier to get that really, really good pressure in there. So that's just one of the things that you can do with this. And then you're just going to continue to wrap this around. So there's actually some other videos online that'll show you some different these actual products by the manufacturers. So it's a good idea. You shouldn't be learning how to use something in an emergency situation. So learn ahead of time, kind of like what we're showing you here a little bit. All right. Another thing is a tourniquet. So I taught you earlier, if you get bleeding and it's just squirting blood out, you need to stop that as fast as possible. If you can get one, it's nice. This is just a pre-made tourniquet on here. All you have to do is open this up. I'm going to go ahead and put this on his arm. And what I want to do is I'm going to go just above where his cut is there. Remember, this is for an arterial bleed, okay? So like in here, maybe the radial artery that ran through here, all right? So this just has Velcro on here. I'm going to put this on here. And it's got a little stick in here that is designed to create pressure. So I'm going to go ahead and start twisting this here. I'm not going to do it real tight on him because I don't want to cut his circulation off. I want Josh to keep his fingers. But you twist it till that bleeding stops or you lose that radial pulse. And then it just tucks into this little holder and goes on there. They actually have a spot on here you guys might be able to see where it says time on there. And what we want to do is write the time that when you get to the emergency room, they're going to want to know how long this tourniquet has been in place. All right? So you just put that on. If it starts bleeding again, maybe you need to give another twist to this rod, and that's going to stop the bleeding. So again, on an extremity, okay? So an arm or a leg, you can get it up pretty high if you need to, okay? Depending on how high the cut is. If you don't have one of these, another thing that we talked about in the first aid kit is just these little triangular bandages, all right? I'm going to go ahead and open this one up here. Comes with usually some safety pins in here. And as I open it, you'll see it's pretty thin, and it's almost a little bit like a bandana, okay? It's a triangle shape. Okay, so you can use this for a few things. You can use this to make a like to put over somebody's arm, to be able to make like a sling for that person. You can use it for different things like that. You can use this to hold direct pressure if you don't have cling. Again, that's one of the, maybe you gotta lose an item. All right, you can use this for that. This also makes a pretty good tourniquet. So I'm gonna show you how to do that with this and show you what some of the common mistakes are. So I'm gonna move back over here a little bit. All right, so with this here, I'm gonna go above his arm. This is pretty long for this, so you can tie just even a basic square knot. So hopefully you guys know how to tie knots. Just right over left, left over right is gonna give you a basic knot. But what a lot of people do when they do these tourniquets is they try to crank down really tight when they make the knot. You don't wanna do that. You wanna have this thing loose. You wanna have some room in there, okay? So I'm gonna put this on here, and you'll see why in just a moment, all right? So I have this on here, and I have some space here, okay? Now what I do is, in the wilderness, unless you're in the desert, you're gonna be able to find a stick here. I'm gonna take a stick and put this in, just like on the other tourniquet. Now I can start spinning this. I'm just gonna spin this until, again, that blood flow stops. Now I have these little tails. I could take this tail here and use it to tie that stick in place, so that way the stick doesn't come unwound. So again, tighten it down till that bleeding stops. You know, just get this, tighten it where you want it to be, and you're good to go, okay? So that's one thing nice about the triangular bandage. It has so many uses. You can use it for splinting. You can use it for direct pressure for bleeding. You can use it for tourniquets. There's just a whole bunch of different things that you can use it for. So, and it's lightweight, doesn't take up much room in your pack. All right. So those are a couple of the main things that we talked about. A lot of the other stuff I think is pretty self-explanatory, except for even the quick clack gauze is just like we showed before. But you're gonna put this on first, and then put that pad on with the cling on there, and kind of hold it in place. So, any other questions? Anything you guys want to discuss?
That's pretty much it.
I think that's pretty much it. All right, everyone, so that kind of wraps up a quick little demonstration of what's in a first aid kit here and how to use some of the stuff. Obviously, this quick demonstration is not designed to replace taking a first aid class or something like that. I just wanted to give you guys a quick demonstration of how to use some of these things. I think in the future, we're going to do some other videos where we maybe focus on certain techniques, so maybe get a little bit more in depth into things like splinting. Obviously, if somebody's injured in the field, that's not something we talked about here today, but we want to give a good demonstration on how to do that, along with maybe more advanced bandaging techniques and so forth. So obviously we have things like heat emergencies and cold emergencies, all those things. So if you've watched these videos in the past, you've seen venomous snakes, so that maybe even do a little bit something along those lines. So I think we have some other videos coming up in the future. So thank you very much for watching, and take care and be safe.